All right, fantastic. We're live streaming. All right. As I was saying to everybody who has been joining us slowly, we were just waiting for a couple of minutes to get situated. So I'll begin now. So I'll just begin just introducing Synergia, and then we'll move on for our presentation for today. So good morning to everybody joining us in the room today. My name is Tatiana Calderon. I just want to make a few announcements before we begin. I just wanted to say that this presentation will be available with closed captionings. Additionally, we are providing simultaneous interpretation in Spanish this morning, for which I will now provide the instructions for our Spanish attendees to join. So, buenos días a todos los que se están reuniendo hoy. Hoy siempre brindamos servicios de interpretación simultánea para nuestros eventos, igual que aquí en Zoom. So, por favor, de hacer clic en el globo al fondo de su pantalla, donde dice interpretación, y luego haga clic en el idioma que desee escuchar, en este caso español. Si quiere escuchar solo al intérprete, también puede hacer clic en Mute Original Audio, que silenciará el audio original. Muchísimas gracias y de nuevo bienvenidos a Synergia. So before we begin, I just want to let everybody know who's in the room that we are broadcasting via our Facebook page. So warm welcome to those that might be watching us there. Just a few housekeeping notes. There will be a recording in PowerPoint available in a follow-up email to everybody who joins us today. And there will be a poll activated at the end. So I encourage you to stay a little bit past the presentation just to fill that out. So once again, good morning, everybody. I am Tatiana. I'm the Autism Initiative Coordinator here at Synergia's Metropolitan Parent Center. I just wanted to give a few words about Synergia's Autism Initiative. Our Autism Initiative project is funded by a grant from the New York City Council under its Autism Initiative. This project supplements the work of Synergia's Metropolitan Parent Center by bringing increased awareness to New York City residents, particularly to communities with large Spanish-speaking populations, about the growing population of children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Its strong outreach component targets families of children with a suspected or known diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, who are not receiving appropriate educational, health, and other related services. Our initiative will link them to other services and supports that meet individual needs of children and families. I want to thank you for being here today. We're absolutely thrilled that you can join us this morning. Before we get into it, just a little bit of information on our presenter today. Today we have the lovely Paola Martinez-Boone. She is the Senior Advocate and Special Education Coordinator at New York Lawyers for Public Interest. So I will now be handing it over to Paola to begin today's presentation. Paola, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Synergia, for having me. It's always my pleasure to partner with other organizations to provide information, education to parents. So my name is Paola Martinez-Boone. My agency is the New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. The New York Lawyers for the Public Interest is a nonprofit legal organization. We do not charge for any of our services, and we do have a very strong education program in which we represent students with disabilities to make sure that they are in the right setting, having the right services and the right program. We are open every day for intake, meaning you can call in from 10 to 3, but if you are busy, you don't have time to call us directly, we have a link, NYLPA.org get help. You can see it for those of you who are viewing the webinar. It's right here. You can click and you can ask for someone to call you. Please make sure that you clarify what you're calling about. Sometimes people call and say, oh, I need help. We have other programs. We have the Disability Justice Program, which is the biggest program in the agency, not only dealing with education, but with other services, OPWDD, community integration. So you have to be a little bit more specific when you call us. We also have a health program, environmental program. So we have like other programs. So when you want to solicit our assistance or a call back, please be clear so that call will be sent to the appropriate person, and then you don't be, having someone to call you and not know where to direct you. I'd be more than happy to share this presentation. However, I just want for you to know that this is intellectual property of New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. meaning that you cannot change anything. You can share it. I'm happy to share with you. I'm happy to share with Synergia. They could post it, but you cannot alter any of the information that is here. If you're gonna pass it along to other families that were not able to attend today, you could, but it has to be in the same format with the same information. Okay, this is what we're gonna be talking about today. It's a lot. So, and I promise you are gonna have enough time at the end to answer your questions. So feel free to focus here, feel free to focus on the information, and then I will answer your questions. However, let me be clear that the questions have to be regarding the content of this presentation. I cannot answer questions, individual questions about my child is attending PS 1, 2, 3, and this is happening. For that kind of information, you need to call us. Call at the main number and leave your information so someone will call you back. I don't want personal information here. This is an open forum. It's 87 people who sign up for this. We are Facebook Live. I don't want your confidential information to be aired here because eventually if you do have a legal case, that might jeopardize your case. And we don't want that. We want to have everything confidential, personal information about your child, you, please call us. General information, of course, you can ask the questions because the point here is for you to understand what we're talking about. I spoke already about New York lawyers and who we are. All this I already had. Okay, we're gonna dig right in. So what is a special education? So a special education is a specialized instruction and related services individually designed to provide educational benefit. The key here is individually designed. You can have 2 kids with disabilities and each one of them should have and must have a program that is individualized to their need. They might have the same disability, they even have the same classification, but the programs have to be tailored to their needs. So that is important, individualized. A special education is not a place, it's a set of services. Now, what is important here also is to understand why our kids are entitled to special education when they go to school. Well, because it's the law. There is a local IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that is a federal law that protects children's rights to a free, appropriate public education in the least strict, restricted environment. So we have to focus on this, free, appropriate public education in the least restricted environment. I want to focus also in the word appropriate because I'm a parent too. When I send my kids to school, I want for them to get the best education that exists. However, legally, New York City Department of Education is tasked with providing what is appropriate, not what is best. So we have to keep this in mind because when we are advocating for our kids with disabilities, we have to use the same language that they're using. So if we go into an IEP meeting and I would say, I want the best education, immediately gonna say, well, my child is not entitled to the best education. The entitlement is appropriate. So when we go into these meetings, we have to talk about appropriate. So it's free, meaning it's free. If your child attends a community school, if your child attends a charter school, which is a public school, if your child, for example, is determined that your child cannot be educated in any of the schools in the 32 districts and plus District 75, and the Department of Education decides that they, don't have a program for your child, they will pay for that program. If that's the fastest way, they agree that they don't have a program for your child, so it continues to be free. So education covers all the way from preschool to preschool to grade 12. Through age 21. However, there are conversations now that perhaps because of the pandemic may cover age 22. However, it's unclear how that's going to work, but it's in the works. Okay, what is an individualized education program, an IEP? It's a legal document. if we don't understand anything about the IEP, we need to understand that it's a legal document. That means that the educational needs and services your child is entitled to is going to be included there, and they must receive it. There is no pass on this. If your child is entitled to a speech therapy because it's on the IEP, the school must provide speech therapy. If the speech therapist left, they need to make up for those hours, whether by giving you an authorization to find those services outside the school, or when they hire someone to give you back what your child missed because it's on the IEP. Includes disability classification, which is different than diagnosis. And this part, it gets confusing for parents. Your child, for example, may have a ADHD, a diagnosis of ADHD, but there is no classification called ADHD. So your child may have on the IEP classified as other hearing impairment or emotional disability. So once again, keep that in mind. That classification is different from diagnosis. Now, your child may be diagnosed with autism, and then there is a classification called autism, and then that's what they put down. However, classifications change. Your child could start, for example, a lot of kids when they're small, they start with a speech or language impairment, and then there's more testing done, and they might end up with an autism classification once that's, there's information supporting that. Also, the IEP includes the classroom size and setting. The IEP will show you the size of the class and the type of setting that is. It also will show you educational supports, meaning if your child needs extra time for accommodations, if your child is a recipient of related services, how many times your child is receiving occupational therapy, speech therapy, assisted technology, all that is on the IEP. Now, sometimes parents call me and said, well, the IEP says that my child receives a speech 3 times a week. I don't know if he is receiving that service or not. You can always go to school and they can show you their log, because if they have a speech therapist, that speech therapy have a log in which she writes down who is receiving the services or whether she provided the services or she didn't. So you are entitled to those to that information. You're entitled to the logs to confirm that your child is receiving those services. It's not a secret. It's not like when you go to school, they're like, oh, we don't know. They should know. And they should have records that service is being provided. Also, the IEP have goals and objectives. Every year, your IEP supposed to have goals and objectives, and also supposed to let you know whether your child met the goal or didn't meet the goal. That's information that they're supposed to provide you. Now, goals are different for every child because remember, this is an individualized program. I have families in which the goal is, for example, that their child will eat independently. That's a goal for them. I have other families that the goal is that the child, hit 80% mark. So once again, the goals are individualized and is for your child specifically. The IEP must be reviewed and updated annually. Every year, you're supposed to have an IEP. If you have an IEP in January 2022 and January 2023 comes and you don't receive an appointment, you must call, because it's a time for an update. And this is important. You must ask for this. And I encourage you to do it in writing, send an email, text. For those of you who do not speak English, it doesn't matter if you request it in Spanish. You request it in your own language, because this is important. Your child may be going to changes and his program, his IEP may need to be adjusted. If you don't have a meeting, you don't know. Parent is a member of the IEP. And I want to stress this, because even when we take cases, even when I read all the information about your child, you are the expert. I am not the expert on your child. I promise you, I read all the materials you send me, but you are the expert. So you have to participate on the IEP and you have to prepare for the IEP. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Once you sign the IEP, that doesn't mean that you're in agreement of everything that is on the IEP. For example, if you disagree in the class size, you could still sign because that is attendance. That's not like you're signing and then fight it. And I'm gonna tell you what the options that you have in order to fight an IEP. Okay, special education and related services. Once again, your child is entitled to all these services and you have the right to be informed and knowledgeable about the actions taken on behalf of the student. That means that, for example, you have an IEP meeting, you discuss, you leave, and then when you receive the IEP, they have taken something or delete something or add something that it wasn't discussed. You have the right to be informed. You go to the IEP, everything that is gonna go on the IEP, they need to discuss with you, okay? You have the right to participate once again. You must participate. You have that right. You go, you prepare yourself, you have a plan, you have conversations about your child, bring a picture of your child. Make it that we are not talking about an ID number here. We are talking about an actual student. We're talking about my child and how the education is gonna influence his life. So once again, participate. The law requires also that you can challenge decisions. If you're not in agreement with whatever it was on the IEP, you can challenge that. And you can challenge that by using mediation or impartial hearing. But you have to take actions because families go to IEPs, they're not in agreement for whatever reason. And then they call me, and that was a year ago, and they didn't do anything. If you are in disagreement, you need to take action in order to have your case heard, whether it's via mediation or via impartial hearing, but you have to do something. Once again, because the IEP is a legal document, everything that is on the IEP, your child needs to receive. There is no way around. If the occupational therapist left because she went and have a baby, the school need to figure out how they're gonna serve your child. If your child has speech therapy twice a week, and they need to see if it's another occupational therapist in the school that is able to provide that service. If not, then you can ask for related service authorization with a list of providers so you can take your child outside and receive those services that are on his IEP because the school is not able to provide that service. The other part of the IEP is that if, for example, you have a child that is in need of a class that is 12 students, one teacher, one paraprofessional, and the school tells you, we don't have that class, you also need to take action in order to start looking for another school. Now, the school's supposed to start looking for another school for you. But if you don't see movement and your child is in the wrong class, your child is the one that is not getting the education he needs. So you need to take action. You need to start moving. Don't, have an IEP in October and wait 6 months knowing that your child is in the wrong placement, because that's not going to help your child. So once again, if you have an IEP and for whatever reason, your child's class size changes and that class size does not exist in that school, you need to move your child, okay? Speaking about classification, again, this is not a diagnosis, but the school, when they create an IEP, according to the federal law, they need to pick one from one of these 13 classifications. And the one that they're gonna put down there is the one that is interfering with your child's education. That's how this works. Whatever is interfering, if your child is having meltdowns, if your child is having a if your child is having, you know, issues, emotional issues, anxiety, depression, then their classification, if it used to be a speech or language impairment, needs to be changed to something that is interfering with their education. That's the purpose of the classification. Okay, and it's only 13 of them. It's not a diagnosis. Your child might be diagnosed with autism, ADHD, oppositional defiance, depression, anxiety. It may have a list of diagnosis. However, on the IEP, what it goes there is the classification, and the classification that is interfering with your child's education. That's what they put there. A diagnosis by itself is not enough, because you can have a child with anxiety that is able to be in a general classroom, doesn't need services, doesn't need anything, and he or she is fine. You might have another child with anxiety in which the anxiety is interfering with the education. They cannot concentrate, they're upset, so they need to create an IEP to accommodate that child. So that's why diagnosis doesn't mean anything and is not enough, because it depends on what is interfering with your child's education. Okay. Also, classification doesn't determine placement or services. You can have a child classified with autism, doesn't mean that he only is going to go to a school that serves kids with autism. I have kids with autism that are in, integrated co-teaching classes in a community school, in 12 one-to-one classes, or in a private school because of the, how autism is interfering with the education. So that depends. The goal is always FAPE, free and appropriate public education in the least restricted environment. That's what we're looking at here in terms of the New York City Department of Education obligations. Okay, the cornerstones of the IEP needs to support students' participation and progress. It provides a coordinated approach to address each student's unique needs, identifies how resources need to be configured to meet your child's needs. It's a living document, meaning that even though your child's, the Department of Education must create an IEP yearly, if it's something changes, if your child is struggling, if your child is not making progress, you can ask for a new IEP. Now, many families, and I encourage this, have their child privately evaluated. The school will do a psychoeducational, and sometimes parents sign up to have the children evaluated independently. They may have a neurological evaluation, a neuropsychological evaluation, a psychiatric evaluation that will provide a lot of information about the child. So you can reopen the IEP to discuss, the recommendations. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, because you have an independent evaluation with a list of recommendations that you must share, you should share with the New York City Department of Education. Doesn't mean that they're gonna take it and they're gonna give you everything that it was in there. You're gonna have an IEP and they're gonna discuss, and then if they need to update the IEP based on some of the new findings, they will do that. Now, if that doesn't go well, if your child, need things that they not in agreement, once again, how you fight back: mediation and impartial hearing. There's no other way around. But once again, I want to be clear that because you have an independent evaluation with 20 recommendations that you will bring to the meeting, doesn't mean that the DOE is gonna say fine, we're gonna do all these things that that this new evaluation says. Now, the other piece is that sometimes New York City Department of Education will pay for independent evaluations. And how do we know that? Because if they do a psychoeducational evaluation and you believe that that information is not sufficient, it doesn't provide enough information about your child, it's not really helping your child, you can request in writing that New York City, that the school provides you with an independent evaluation, a neuropsychological or a psychological evaluation. Sometimes if they have the staff in-house, they will do it. If not, if they approve it, they will give you an approval and a list of providers that will do that type of evaluation. So once again, that's another option. You can always write in New York City Department of Education and say, my child have a a psychoeducational evaluation that doesn't provide enough information. It doesn't reflect the needs of my child. So I'm requesting a neuropsychological evaluation. So you can always do that. IEP is for all ages. When your kid is in preschool, during the turning 5 process. So your child might be preschool early intervention, preschool 3, preschool 4, and then when they're gonna enter kindergarten, there's a process that's called the turning 5 process, in which, you know, the community of special education will send you an appointment and they will evaluate your child again, and they will create an IEP. That's the IEP that is going to start in kindergarten, and that's the IEP that, you know, the placement that your child is going to have starting kindergarten. So once again, the Department of Education obligation is to evaluate every 3 years. However, if your child start kindergarten and the program is not working, or the services are not working, always have those conversations with school. As your child, you know, continues struggling, you can always ask for a new evaluation if you think something have changed or the current evaluation doesn't reflect the needs that your child may have. So that is important. We don't evaluate just to evaluate. It's exhausting for the children, by the way. However, if things are not working and the evaluation is not reflecting anymore the needs of your child, please ask for a new evaluation. Now, if your child started kindergarten, it's started in September, we're in December, perhaps it may be too early because you have to give it time for transition, for adjustment. But, you know, once again, keep in mind that you could have conversations with a teacher about your child's progress, what is working, what is not, behaviors. If your child starts having a lot of behaviors during school, you can always ask for a functional behavior assessment and a behavioral plan so they're able to manage your child during school. But once again, you have to work with the Department of Education to kind of see what's going to work for your child. You are the expert. If the kindergarten teacher just started with your child in September, you know more than she does. So you have to work with those systems in order to support your child. But once again, you have options. If you know your child is not making progress, if your child is struggling, you could always have the option to ask for a reevaluation, and you always have the option to open the IEP to see what else you could add to the program that it may be helpful for your child.
And Paola, before we continue, Mr. Marco is asking if you could repeat that portion on the neuropsych evaluation. He states they're going through the turning 5 now and the prices are about $8,000.
Yeah, but you don't have to pay for a psychological. If you're, you know, the New York City Department of Education is gonna do the psychoeducational, that is the one that is gonna, you know, help them to draft the IEP about programs and services. If you want extra information for your child, once again, if you have the resources, you can do a neuropsychological, but it's a pricey evaluation. However, there are, you know, places, evaluators, probably there's a waiting list that you can reach out and put yourself in the waiting list and wait for them to call and evaluate. A lot of the CUNYs, SUNYs, Promise, NYU, a lot of places will do this for free. Now, the point here is not evaluate and evaluate. If the Department of Education does a psychoeducational evaluation that will provide the information that is needed to land at a class size appropriate programs and services, then that may work. Now, if that is not working, if you believe that for whatever reason, whatever, they provided is not working, you can always, do impartial hearing to say, well, they did an evaluation. I asked for an independent evaluation because this one didn't provide enough information. They deny, and therefore now I gonna take New York City Department of Education to impartial hearing so they could pay for a comprehensive neurological evaluation. The other part that I want parents to be aware is that pick your fights. Pick your fights. There are resources that you can tap to obtain information about your child. If your child sees a developmental pediatrician, they evaluate, they have a lot of information that you can provide during that meeting. If your child sees a neurologist, they evaluate a psychiatrist. So you have other ways to obtain information about your child that it could be helpful in the school setting. However, if you strongly believe that your child needs a neuropsychological evaluation and the information that DOE provide is not enough and the program is not the program that your child may need, once again, appropriate. Keep in mind appropriate. We're not talking about the best program that exists. We're talking about appropriate. Technically, New York City Department of Education have done their part. When we talk about evaluations, I always recommend for parents to do independent evaluations so they could learn a little bit more about their children. That's perfect. Also, keep in mind that the evaluations from New York City do not diagnose the students. Evaluations that they do is with the goal of providing appropriate programs and services, not to diagnose. If you need a diagnosis, if you know something else is going on, if you want to explore, all that comes from independent evaluators, okay? So how is the process? So the process starts with identification. So your child must be identified as a student with disabilities. Then you will receive a referral and consent for evaluations, and it could be, there always is going to be a psychoeducational evaluation, but they also do a psychosocial. They will do, if they think that is necessary, an occupational evaluation, a speech evaluation for those students who are nonverbal. Perhaps they do an assisted technology evaluation. For the students who have behavioral needs, you can request a functional behavioral evaluation and a behavioral plan. All that you could ask. Now, because you have evaluations, doesn't mean that your child is going to be eligible for all the services. So that's when it comes eligibility determination, meaning that after your child is evaluated in those areas, then there are certain services that perhaps he or she is not going to be eligible for. And there are others that he or she is going to be eligible. Speech therapy, for example, your child might be eligible 2 times a week, 30 minutes. Same with occupational therapy, same for physical therapy. Also, for a lot of students, counseling is included in the IEP. I want to clarify that counseling is not therapy. Counselors at school are not providing a therapeutic service to your child, okay? If your child needs a lot of assistance, you need to take your child to therapy outside of school, in which they're gonna start working with him one-on-one to navigate what's going on with him. If your child needs medication, you assess that with primary doctor, psychiatrist, and you can combine psychiatry, medication, and therapy. Don't be mistaken by thinking that because the IEP says counseling once a week, your child is receiving therapy. Usually, what counselors do at school is to check in with your child to make sure that they haven't, if they have any issues at school, they talk to the counselor. If they're having a bad day, they could reach out to the counselor that day, but it's not therapy. If your child needs therapy, you need to reach out to those services outside of the school. After the IEP is developed, then it comes placement and services. So the IEP is gonna clearly state how many times your child is gonna receive a speech, occupational, the class size, the accommodations, everything that your child needs is gonna go into the IEP. And we're gonna look at IEP and I'm gonna walk you through certain areas of the IEP for you to keep in mind.
Paola, we do have a question in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Jacqueline Batista is asking, what is the next step when a district does not have the appropriate program/setting for a student? Okay,
so that's a kind of a loaded question, because appropriate, as the IEP says that they need to be in an A1-1 class and that class doesn't exist, or appropriate as, he's already in that class and things are not working and therefore the whole thing is not appropriate. So once again, that's kind of, it kind of a difference. Now, if your child attends any school and the IEP says that he's supposed to be in a 12 1-to-1 class, and that particular school doesn't have that class, they need to help you to find another school that will accommodate the child's IEP. If they're not helping you, then you need to call placement and go in person to the district, or call and said, my child's supposed to be in a 12 1-to-1 class. That class does not exist in the school that he's attending. I need a new school. And they're supposed to help you finding another school. Okay? So I hope I answered the question, because once again, it is different scenarios for this same question. Okay, so IEP development. So it has to be child-centered. It should be based on individuals' strengths and needs. It's a shared participation and responsibility. Okay, meaning that what goes on the IEP, school needs to provide, but work needs to be done at home also to support the student. Once again, special education is a service, not a place. You have to look into the annual goals to see if your child is meeting them, and ask the question, why my child is not meeting the goals? What needs to happen for he or she to meet those goals? Also includes positive behavior supports. When we send our kids to school, we want our kids to be supported. We want our kids to be having a positive experience. And if something is going on, if your child comes upset every day, you need to have a conversation with the school about what's going on. Okay?
Paola, before we continue, we do have 3 questions. So we'll start with the first one from Ms. Rachel Phillips. She's stating, good morning. Can the DOE provide parents to have an IEP with therapists outside of school, since counseling in school isn't enough?
No, that is our outside service. That's not a paid services from New York City Department of Education. If your child needs therapy, there are many, many places that will provide that service. If your child is a recipient of Medicaid or any health insurance that is covered under those health insurance. Also for kids with disabilities, we have Article 16 clinics that provide a lot of services, which lead me to another question, which if your child have a developmental disability or an intellectual disability, you should be looking into enrolling him with the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, OPWDD, so your child will have access to extra services besides what is offered in school.
Thank you, Paola. The next question is from Miss Annie. She states, can the Department of Education afford private school, or is this expense on me?
Once again, education is free in all the systems, whether it's community school, charter school, non-public schools. So now the issue here is not that the Department of Education could afford private school or not, is if your child will be entitled to private school. Once again, there are a few ways that New York City Department of Education pays for private school. One of which is when the school, what it used to be called the IEP team, now it's called the support team, gets together and realize this child has so many needs that we cannot find at a school under New York City Department of Education. Therefore, we're gonna defer, that's what they put on the IEP, defer this child to CBST, which is Central Based Support Team, to obtain a placement in private school because we don't have that service. Now with that, that's the easiest way to obtain private school. Now, if you are in a battle with the school and the school is no agreement with that, then in order for you to fight back is via impartial hearing, but the burden of proof is on you, meaning you have to prove that there is nothing in the under New York City Department of Education that have what your child needs, what is appropriate for your child. Once again, not the best education, what is appropriate for your child. So once again, that is more, impartial hearing, which is like court, education court, for you to fight your case. I'm blanking on something else I want to say. But once again, if you want to know about how the process is like, how can I go about, at the end of the presentation, we do have educational fact sheets in which we actually explain impartial hearings and placement in private schools, okay? The other part that I want to clarify about private schools is that one, they are the most segregated setting. So I get parents telling me, oh, I want my child to be in an inclusive class because I want him to be around other non-disabled peers, but I want private school. So those things, the two things don't go together. Private schools are not inclusive because everyone in that private school, a specialized private school, is another child with disabilities. So once again, nothing wrong with that. But once again, when you are, you have to think about what really is you looking for to benefit your child. If inclusion is your goal, then private school is not going to be the place in which your child is going to get that inclusion, because everyone there is a child with disabilities. Also, the Department of Education relationship with private school is just contract for payment. And I want to clarify that, because if you visit, a lot of parents love to visit private school, you visit a beautiful private school and this is the perfect school for your child, and then you go through the process, submit application, and you are denied because the school said, no, I don't think we can serve this child. DOE cannot do anything about it to force that school to take your child, because those are independent entities. Every private school is an independent entity. So they go through their own process and they decide, once, if they have seat for your child, two, if your child is appropriate for their school. And New York City have no saying in that. So just be clear about that. Okay.
Thank you, Paola. We do have 3 more questions, but I will circle back around to them at the end for the Q&A, so we could just continue with the presentation, all right?
Thank you. So during the IEP meeting, the goal is always establish eligibility. Like I said, your child might be going through a 25 process, have a lot of evaluations, and then, during the IEP meeting, they have to talk about eligibility for those services. By the way, if your child have a lot of evaluations, you're supposed to receive copies of every evaluation 5 school days before the IEP. That is important, and that's a right that you have, and I want that right for you to enforce that right. Why is that? Because you need to read those evaluations. you need to prepare for these meetings. So you need to find out what they put there and take your own notes and ask questions. If the IEP meeting is November 7th, you're supposed to have these evaluations by the 2nd. And if they don't send it with your child, call the school and said, can I have copies? Because I need to see the findings in order for me to be a meaningful participant in my child's IEP. So ask for those, please. Don't go there. Oh, they're talking about your child. You have no idea, because that's not productive. That's not helpful for your child. You are there and you have to be there and you have to be intentional. Okay. Like I said before, the IEP is supposed to be reviewed every year. If the day comes and you don't hear from them, you be proactive and call them and say what's going on. You know, the IEP date is supposed to be in January, it's February, I haven't heard from you. And send it in writing via email, text, because once you send it, the clock starts ticking. Don't ask the teacher in the hall, because guess what happened? You call me and I call the teacher, and the teacher will 90% of the time tell me they don't remember. You never said that. In writing, it's not denial, which leads me to another point. Every time that you call the school about something that is going on with your child, write who you talked to, the date, what's their name, the title, and what they said. Okay? Because guess what happened? You call me, oh, 3 months ago, I called and they told me no. Okay, who did you call? Oh, I don't know. What's the title? Do you know it was the assistant principal? Oh, I don't know either. What did they say? I don't remember. I just remember no. That is not helpful. Take a 99-cent notebook, and every time that you call the school, ask for names. Ask for names and write down what they told you. So that way you have like a track record of, you know, your efforts, because that's the next question that I'm going to ask you. What have you done to fix this problem? And sometimes you tell me nothing. That's not helpful. So we have to be active in advocating for our kids. Okay. Like I said, reevaluations mandated every 3 years is your right, is your child's right to have every 3 years. However, you don't have to wait 3 years. If your child have a kindergarten evaluation and now he is in 2nd grade and things are not working, you can always ask for a re-evaluation. Even a death in the family could affect your child's behaviors, and you can ask for evaluation if things change at home that are affecting your child. Okay. You can always request for the IEP to be reopened. Once again, if things are not working, if your child is struggling, you don't have to wait for the next IEP in a year. You can always ask to reopen this IEP. However, be intentional. You have to prepare for these things. You cannot just call the school and say, reopen my IEP, and then nothing. You have to have a plan. You have to prepare yourself to defend your point. Why do you need the IEP reopened? Why do you need a reevaluation? You need to be prepared. Okay. Once again, I just said this, preparing for the IEP, read all the evaluations. For the people who speak another language, they supposed to provide them to you in another language. Now, you can also have the English one and have somebody else explain them to me if you want to. Okay. Understand what services and resources are available to you through New York City Department of Education. Sometimes they have a lot of resources that you don't know about it. Or sometimes you're asking for resources that they're not entitled to provide. So there's a document that is called Families Guide to Special Education. Read the document. They have it in every language. Read that document, because that document tells you about programs, services, class size. Do your homework. In order to be an effective advocate for your child, and in order to meaningful impact your child's education, you have to educate yourself. I know it sounds like a job, but it is. It is. You have to educate yourself. Go to New York City's website, look about programs and services, look about entitlements, read, chancellor's regulations. That tells you your rights as well. So once again, you have to do a little bit of work here. If your child is, for example, receiving services outside the school, you can actually invite those providers to the IEP. They could be on the phone. If you have a therapist that is working with your child for a long time and she knows, what your child may need, invite them. They could be on the phone, on Zoom now. Everything is on Zoom. So they could provide testimony about, how to help your child in school. Be prepared, participate. That is so important. Okay. Once again, along the way, I've been talking about this. Create a plan. Don't go there and sit and look all over, look at the light, look up and down. You have to create a plan. You have to prepare for this. Identify who are the decision makers. If you're having a meeting, you want to identify who's going to be able to change things on the IEP to benefit your child. If it's the school psychologist, if it's the school social worker, if it's the principal. I have IEPs in which the principal comes down and I know for sure that she's the boss and she is the decision maker. Okay? Think about your position. Give little to get a little. Sometimes we are so laser focused. Is this or nothing? And guess what? Nothing is going to help your child if they give you nothing. So once again, be prepared to give little to get little. Go with the mind, I would love to get this. I can live with this. There is no way that I'm going to accept this. So prepare yourself. It's almost like you have to prepare yourself to have negotiating skills. Okay, this is what I want here. I want a speech therapy 5 days a week. But they offer me 3. Okay, I give little to get little. But then they give me 3 speech therapy, but then they want all in group. But then a firm says at least one of those have to be individual or 2 of those have to be individual. Once again, think about your plan, your strategy, and give little to get little. Manage the meeting, ask questions. No one knows your child more than you do. Nobody. Be realistic. Once again, once you understand the system in which your child is, the education system, you know the terminology, you know what the rights are, you'll be able to negotiate, but be realistic. Once again, start with the idea that the legal duty of New York City Department of Education is appropriate, not the best education. So you have to also work with you saying, well, my child needs all these things, and my fight is about appropriate. My fight is always about appropriate. Keep your child in mind. Sometimes parents get so blinded by the fight that they forget this is about your child. I have parents that, laser focused, aggressive, fighting with everyone in the school. Meanwhile, despite the fact that, the child is not making progress, which is why he's going there, the child likes the school. The child have friends at school. So keep that in mind. You're fighting with everyone at school. Meanwhile, your child comes happy because they're having a good time at school. So once again, be realistic, balance out, and keep your child in mind all the time. Never burn a bridge because you may need to go back and cross it. I said to parents, before you start this, fight with everyone at school, try to talk to them and go to the different levels. If you talk to the teacher and just not paying attention, talk to the IEP team, the support team, talk to the principal. If none of that is working, then go and talk to the district. But once again, do everything possible to support your child. And you can tell them, say, you know, you're not listening. My child is struggling. My child is not making progress. What else do you want me to do? I'm going to continue to go up the ladder, right? In order to, you know, to resolve this issue. Also keep in mind, it's not personal. It's not about you or I. You know, it's not about you or I, believe me. So keep that in mind. Once, I know it's difficult because when we have kids, we go that with emotions. We cannot remove the emotions from the whole process, but don't start thinking that it's about you, it's about your child, it's personal, okay? Most of the time it's not. Most of the time is, you know, a job for them. And that's why you have to be prepared. And that's why you have to, you know, develop a plan and read the documents and do your homework in order to be an effective advocate for your child. Okay, this is like fact sheets information that I created. You can get those from our website, by the way. There is the one about about private schools, and there is the other one about impartial hearings. So you can find it. So now I'm gonna show you an actual IEP. So that way, I know you have seen your child's IEP, but that way you can also know where to find information. Okay, so, oh, wait, I think I need to share. Okay. So we are looking at an actual student's IEP. Obviously, I block the information because this is confidential information. But once you obtain IEP, this is how it's going to look. You all have these IEPs, you know how it looks. So first of all, the disability classification is always on the first box. So when you call anyone for assistance, they're going to ask you disability classification. In this case, other health impairment. It also tells you when the IEP is going to be implemented. This is not the day of the IEP. The IEP is probably not, was sometime in February, but this is the day in which the services take place. And then it tells you when the review is going to happen. So once again, if you have an IEP last year, you don't remember when the next IEP for next year is supposed to happen, look at that IEP and it tells you it's supposed to be reviewed exactly more or less a year from the date that this happened, okay? So you have that information. So now the IEP says present level for performance. You see here in this first page, they talking about whether or not this child is above grade level, whether the child is tested out, comprehension at third grade level, text grade. So information about your child is here. So when you call us and we start asking you questions about your child, I know the information is on the IEP. So a minimum, I don't think that anyone is gonna like memorize this, but have your IEP handy so you know where to find the information because everything is here. You know, this child, they put so much information about this student. Not every IEP looks like this, by the way. They input a lot of information because this child have to have a lot of independent evaluations because of his challenges at school. So they plug in the information from those evaluations here. Okay, from the Westler intelligence, IQ, everything they put here because that came from independent evaluations. This child needed to be independently evaluated because, you know, he was able to perform at school, but he needed a lot of help. And they were trying to identify what was that. So everything is here. Present levels of performance, they do the write-up about what your child is at. The goals, remember I talk about the goals, long-term goals for living, working, and learning as an adult. They're included here. They also include, you know, the criteria to achieve those goals. the schedule. So if you look at the IEP, everything that you need to know is here. For example, in this particular goal in counseling sessions, 4 out of 5 trials. Here on the summary, it tells you the recommended programs and services. This child, for example, received counseling 3 times for 30 minutes. He received occupational therapy. This child is in a general classroom. Okay, so everything is here. It tells you if the student is going to be in a 12-month program or not. It also tells you the accommodations, extended time, breaks, on-task focusing, prompts, everything is here. In the case of this student, he is going to participate in the same statewide understated assessment. That means that for now, this student is on path to a Regents diploma or to a local diploma. And eventually, if he chooses to, he could go to college. For those of you that the second box is clicked, the student will participate in an alternatives assessment. That means that your student perhaps may be in school until age 21 or whenever they graduate, but they not gonna graduate with a high school diploma or a Regents diploma. Okay, so I want to clarify that because then I have parents that the child is 16 and they're looking for the high school diploma. And then when I look at the IEP, the child is not even on path. So once again, read the IEP because you will find a lot of information about your child here. This child doesn't need specialized transportation. And then we have the summary page. The summary page tells you exactly when this IEP meeting was done, February 2nd. Remember there the implementation, meaning that the services that they put in this IEP started on the 28th, but the actual IEP meeting was on the 2nd, February 2nd. It also tells you functional levels, instructional functional levels. When you call me, I ask you what math and reading your child's level. Oh, I don't know, it's on the IEP. For this student, he was a level 3rd grade level. Okay, the information is here. In the summary, they also put again the type of related services. And then at the end, this is the attendance page. This is not that you are in agreement with the IEP. That means that you attended the IEP. Okay, you feel free to sign. If you are not in agreement with the IEP, as I explained to you, your options are mediation or impartial hearing. Mediations are independent, free. You can call a mediation center and said, well, my child's, I've been asking the school to, about speech therapy, they have not provided. I have called everyone, they're not paying attention. I need my child to get the speech therapy. You can call mediation center. They set up everything for you. You just submit the application and they are neutral. They don't work for DOE, they don't work for you. They're just agencies, nonprofit agencies that focus on mediation to try, for you to come to an agreement with the Department of Education and then, resolve the issue. If that doesn't work, there is always impartial hearing available. Okay, let me close this here. Okay, so that was it in terms of the understanding the IEP. We have time for questions, so this is the time.
Fantastic. So Paola, we do have quite a few really good questions. So I'm going to start with the ones in the Q&A section, and then I'll move on to those that have been written in the chat. So first we have Iker Gonzalez asking, can I change my child's school because he has not been receiving his services for more than a month and I haven't been able to communicate with anybody at the school level?
Okay, yes, you can call placement and you can or go to placement, the district, and said, well, my child's supposed to be receiving all these services. This is not the appropriate school because they don't have the services that he needs. That will be one thing. You can also go to the district and said, my child school does not have a provider for speech therapy. Give me an authorization with a list of providers that, so in that case, my child could get those services. So you can go either. You can go to district and say, this school is not providing the services.
Thank you, Paola. And then we do have a question from one of our Facebook viewers. They state, for the transition age youth, does the DOE have a specific document that outlines student track for graduation tasks and activities to be developed during the school year, and that is done in collaboration with the family and the student? And this is not about the transition component of the IEP or the vocational assessment.
Okay, anything that have to do with the transition, a lot of the schools have transitions coordinator that will be able to walk you through everything that needs to happen during transitions, programs and services, tracking, all that. They do have transitions coordinator. Also, DOE have a transition guide, a whole document that talks about transitions, what needs to happen, and how to guide parents in terms of the transitions. And there is also transition centers that exist that you can reach out to and ask those kind of questions to guide you and to answer you questions regarding transition. And there's also include NYC, who have a whole group of people just working on transition and informing and supporting parents in terms of transition.
Thank you. And just to follow up on the transition piece, Miss Maria Isabel is asking, is the IEP applicable in college as long as the child is 21 and below? What happens to the IEP after the child turns 21?
When a child is going to college, colleges have accommodations and all other things that they provide in college. The IEP stop whenever the child ends in this system, in this. However, sometimes for accommodations, some of the colleges are going to ask you, okay, let me see what was happening during the high school ages, if you need an extra time and all that. But this usually colleges have a whole office for students with disabilities and support. So that's the office that you need to be talking to about what the child needs while they are in college.
Another question that we have is the right to the IEP, is the right to an IEP and it's effectively applicable in states outside of New York City? If not, what can families do to have an IEP implemented in schools in other states, like like, for example, family moves out of NYC?
Okay, so once again, we have IEPs because in the beginning, I don't know if people missed a little bit of the beginning, is federal law. So the federal law mandates that kids with disabilities have an individualized program. So it doesn't matter where you move, they're gonna have to evaluate and assess and create an IEP. You bring the information from New York City and say, well, this is the IEP. Sometimes when you register, then they start using the IEP from other states because that's a guideline for them. But eventually they're gonna evaluate and they're gonna create the IEP to continue services in other states.
Thank you, Paola. And from Juana Espinal in our chat, she's asking, if the IEP is a legal document and so important for families, why is it that they can't provide us this document in Spanish?
No, they can. Yes, you request the document not only in Spanish, in any other language, and you're supposed to get it.
Thank you. And then we have another question from Miss Mary Puello. I'm going to read it in Spanish first, and then I'm going to translate it for our audience. So she states, si el terapista del habla fue y no informan a los padres, 2 meses después me entero que no están dando la terapia al niño que tengo que hacer. Si no veo avances en las terapias de la escuela, ¿qué tengo que hacer? So basically, Ms. Puello stating that it seems that their current speech therapist at her child's school left and the parents were not informed. until 2 months after. So what can she do for her child to obtain those services, essentially?
Okay, a few things. It's almost the same answer that I provided before. If you know when this person left, the school could do a few things. One, if they have a new person, the new person could, for example, if your child's IEP says speech therapy 3 times a week, the new person could add 1 time more in order to make up for the ones that weren't provided for 2 months. If that is not possible because they don't have anyone yet, you ask the school for an authorization so your child could receive those services outside the school. If the school doesn't respond to that, then call the district, say the provider left, my child have 10 sessions that he has missed. I want an authorization for 10 sessions so my child could get those sessions outside of the school.
Thank you, Paola. And then we have a similar question here. The parent Jasmine is stating, if a child is mandated to get OT and PT, however, school currently has not found anyone. They did receive an RSA letter, but there's no outside providers available due to shortage of staff. So what she wants to know what her next step would be.
Okay, so when they give you an RSA and they give you a list of provider, you need to call every provider in that list. And I mean every. And you're gonna get that list in your hand and you're gonna write next to left a message November 5th. The telephone number is not valid. For each provider, you're gonna notate your experience, or they're full, they don't take in more students, they don't take in students from DOE. And then you go back to the district and said, I did everything here. Now you have to give me a list of providers with an enhanced rate. This is the word here, enhanced rate. Because you already went to the list that have contracts with New York City. You didn't find anyone. So now they need to give you another list for people who they have to pay more. That is called enhanced rate. If they don't work with you, if they're giving you a hard time about giving you permission for an enhanced rate provider, then you do mediation.
Thank you, Paola. And now we have a question from Ms. Cira Garcia. She's stating, how is it possible that a child can go without a service for 1.5 years at a charter school, being that the IEP is a legal document?
Okay, so the services in a charter school, I don't have personally anything against charter schools, but because they are public school, but they are independent in a way. They have their own way, administrative arm and all that. So if you have a child in a charter school that is not able to provide services for your child, number one, you need to contact the Committee on Special Education so they could give you an RSA. And number two, obviously that's not the appropriate school for your child. I don't know why anyone would wait 1.5 years and continue having a child in a placement that is not appropriate. This is not an appropriate placement. If you realize that this school is not providing the services, one, you need to ask for those services back, the related services back via Committee of Special Education. And two, you need to move that child from there because obviously they're not the appropriate placement.
Thank you, Paola. And we have another question from Ms. Maria Isabel. She's asking, can anticipated future services be requested and placed in the IEP? For example, can busing services be requested in middle school with the anticipation that the child would need busing in high school?
No, there is no such a thing like anticipating.
Thank you. And she does have another follow-up question. What do we do when some teachers do not consider what is implied in the IEP, although services are not as specified? For example, if the child has an emotional disability, have anxieties over homework, and can hardly accomplish homework and submit them on time, can the family demand teachers to give the child special privileges?
Well, that will go into the accommodations, but once again, that's a conversation you have to have with the teacher, because on the IEP, it lays out the accommodations and the student duty Now, if the child is having homework anxiety, if the child is not capable, perhaps the homework is too high level for the child, those are conversations that you need to have with the teacher. You have, if you know, if those teachers are not able to accommodate your child, first of all, the other question is like, if your child is having all this anxiety and all this, I hope that this child is getting therapy outside of the school to manage the anxiety. And if you are confronted with a school that is not working with your child and they say, well, your child have anxiety and we understand the anxiety, but you know, in order to pass, they need to do the homework and they need to do the work and all that, you know, you need to have those conversations with that school. Perhaps maybe that it's not the school, maybe your child needs, there are, you know, schools that you know, they're more integrated social emotional type of school. Perhaps that's not the school for the child. Perhaps, you know, it could be a list of different things. Perhaps the child have anxiety about homework because they don't understand what is being provided in the classroom. The levels are, you know, the child, if the child is anxious, not able to concentrate, perhaps, you know, they're not understanding what the teacher is teaching, and then when they go home they get anxious because they don't know how to do the homework because they didn't understand what was happening there. So once again, you can also reevaluate the child to see what's going on with this student, why, you know, she or he is not capable to do the homework. And once again, I go back to think about your child. Keep your child in mind. And I say this from a place of experience, because sometimes I get parents, and I'm not saying it's your situation, by the way, I don't even know who asked the question. But sometimes parents have like this level of performance for the kids, and then that produces anxiety to the kids because they know that they cannot meet that level, that expectation. So once again, it's a combination of different things. Many times we want to put New York City at fault for everything, but many times it's a combination of what is happening at home in combination with what's happening at school. So once again, always keep your child in mind. It's not about you or I, it's about your child.
Thank you, Paola. We do have the parent from earlier that had mentioned taking their child out to a different school due to lack of services. They state that they have tried to contact the placement officer, but she hasn't gotten any response from them. So what can she do? In person?
Go placement in person. You might be there a whole day, by the way. Be prepared. Don't take your child with you, or any kids, by the way. Go prepared to spend the whole day, because sometimes they say, we have appointments. You need to be here. To go placement in person, and to ask them to solve your issue.
Thank you, Paola. And we do have a question from pre-registration that I thought was very intriguing. A parent had asked during pre-registration that if you could discuss students with IEPs, their rights when it comes to student suspensions and teacher removals.
Okay, so first of all, I want to be clear that my agency does not do suspensions. We don't, because suspension is one of the things that you have to have staff ad hoc, like immediately, a child is being suspended and you need to have representation immediately. The other part that I could tell you is, because your child has a disability doesn't mean that they cannot be suspended. However, if they are at risk of being suspended, New York City have to follow guidelines as how to go about that. And there are different types of suspension. There's like the principal suspensions, 1 day suspension, 2 day suspension, and there is more long-term suspension. So if your child is about to be suspended, I will suggest to call an agency that does suspensions, so you will have representation. You can call Advocates for Children, you can call Legal Aid, you can call Legal Services, and they usually are the agencies that represent students who are, at risk to be suspended or in the process of being suspended, because, you have to have like a process in place. It's not like, we're gonna suspend it from this school for 3 months and that's it. They have to go through a process. So I will encourage you real quick to start calling around regarding, representation for a possible suspension or active suspension, whatever your case is.
Thank you, Paola. And I will follow up with the information for Advocates for Children. They're the experts on suspensions and have a dedicated staff for that particular reason. So I will follow up with that information via the email. And this question, Paola, specifically for you from Jacqueline Batista. She says, do you work on family/cases outside of the New York City areas, such as Westchester, Rockland, or other New York State counties?
Unfortunately, no. We only represent students in New York City, just the 5 boroughs of New York City. However, they are most likely there's a illegal services in that county that might be able to help you if that's what you're looking for.
Thank you, Paula. And that has been all the questions that have been shared in the chat and Q&A. If anybody has any other questions at this time, you're more than welcome to write them down in the chat. We still have about 10 minutes left, so we definitely have times for maybe 1, 2, or 3 more questions. But if nobody has a question left, you can always contact me via email, or if you have a private matter that you would like to discuss with Paola, I will share with you her contact information so you can reach her after the presentation. Just as stated before, this is a public forum, so we want all private information to remain private.
We do, if people join late, we do have a special education practice and all our services are free. We don't charge for any of our services, and we represent students with disabilities, making sure that they have the right program, the right services, and everything that they need in the schools. If you have, an issue or clearly something that you perceive to not being working, please call the main number 212-244-4664. And then, they will ask you a few questions, and then one of us will call you from the team and ask you like a whole set of questions to identify and assess your case to see if we can help you in any way.
Thank you, Paula. And I do see a final question here from Miss Annie. She says, I have a situation. Her son suffers from nasal congestion and then pneumonia, and has lots of school absences. When my son is absent, can I request homeschool?
No, homeschool is different from home instruction. Homeschool meaning you, the parent, are going to provide the schooling. Home instruction is DOE sending people to your house, which is is assumed to be longer term and is a longer process. What you can do is, if your child is sick, you can contact the school and ask for the homework and for the things that he needs to do. But it's a sticky situation though. It's not as easy as it sounds, because your child might get the homework, but if he didn't get the instruction, how he's gonna do the homework.
Thank you, Paula. And just a reminder for everybody that is currently watching, I will follow up with Paula's contact information in an email along with the presentation, and as well as Advocates for Children's suspension contact information for their department. So no worries, everybody will be able to get in touch with Paola or New York Lawyers for the Public Interest if you have any questions that you would like to ask her. And since I don't see any more questions currently in the chat, the Q&A, or Facebook, this will be the conclusion of our presentation. Please stay on for just a few more minutes just to complete the poll. We'd really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Paola, for being here with us today. Everybody's sharing their appreciation for such an informative presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you, my pleasure. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. And for those that are still here, please go ahead and fill the poll. For those watching us via Facebook, I will be stopping the live stream now. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact our intake line at Synergia, or number is available on our Facebook page. Thank you for those Facebook viewers.